Greetings, everyone. Thank you for attending our show today, Memories of Plymouth. Our goal from the very beginning has to try to capture and save, preserve some of the community memories that we have. We've been doing the show for 7 years. 7 years, more than 50 individuals have been interviewed, probably far more than that. I'm pleased to have our guest with us today, James Desmarais. Some of you may know him. Jim, thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning.
All right. You sure you want to do this? I think he is. I think he is. So I have a series of questions that I'd like to ask. You can pass on any of them if you want. This is mostly about your family, your positions that you've held throughout the state. Most of you will recognize Jim as the former principal of Plymouth High School, but there's so many stories other than that that we should be sharing with them today. Positions that you've held throughout New Hampshire. Here we go. Please state your formal full name.
James W. Desmarais.
All right, and what does W stand for?
William.
And is that a namesake? Are you named after anybody?
After myself.
I like that already. When were you born, sir?
August 18th, 1938.
1938. Where were you born?
Concord, New Hampshire.
And we are interviewing today from Concord, New Hampshire. Where do you live now?
Havenwood Health Services Center.
All right. And you said you were born here. Which hospital?
Margaret Pillsbury.
Does it still exist?
No.
All right. Has it been replaced by something?
Concord Hospital.
Concord Hospital. All right. Let's talk about mom and dad if we can for a minute. State your dad's name.
Fred Desmarais.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was Kathleen McEwen Desmarais.
And when were they both born?
My dad was born in 1913. My mother was 1909.
Wow. Wow, you're taking us back. What positions, occupations, if any, did they hold?
I'm not sure all the positions that my family held, but my father was the Director of Food Services at New Hampshire Hospital for over 40 years. He was also a police officer.
Wow.
My mother came from Ireland, and she was a nanny for a while, and she was a nurse's aide at the New Hampshire Hospital. And then after having children, she became a homemaker.
All right, thank you for that. And did you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother and 3 sisters.
Mm-hmm. Could we share their names for the audience?
No, we're okay.
Okay, we're not going to.
I don't have their permission.
Okay, all right. And you currently live here on Christian Avenue in Concord?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to go back pretty far if I could. When you were a kid, in your youth, did you work?
Yes.
And what kind of positions did you do?
Well, I was a paper boy.
Mm-hmm.
I shoveled snow, mowed lawns with a hand lawnmower, and I helped elderly in our neighborhood and ran errands, helped deliver meals, and then I worked at various jobs through high school and college. I worked on a farm driving truck and tractor.
Wow.
And I think that's most of the jobs that I had when I was growing up.
Okay. You can pass on this question, but do you remember any of the amounts of monies that you might have made when you did these errands?
You don't want to know.
Okay.
How does 45 cents an hour sound?
Okay, we're going to pass. Let's see. I've been told that you participated in physical activity sports all of your life. Accurate?
Well, I've been involved with athletics all of my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a youngster, I played Little League sports and CYO, and played high school sports and played in college. And then in my adult years, I played softball and racquetball and basketball.
Wow, wow.
And I did some of that until my mid-50s.
50s, thank you, active. You are married, you were married.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And your wife's name?
Carolyn.
Carolyn. All right. And where was she from? She was not a New Hampshire person, was she?
She was born in Flushing, New York.
Thank you.
Lived much of her life in Maine. And that's where I met her. I met her in college. And we married probably 3 weeks after we graduated.
Wow, wow. How many years were you married?
Going on 63.
63 years. Wow. It's a while. That's a record. For me, that's a record. If you would describe your life with Kay, what might it be? What words would you use? Or describe her, too.
Well, she was a wonderful person. To be married to someone for 63 years is a testimony to the life that we had together and the love we have for each other. And she was a wonderful mother and homemaker and a worker.
And a worker. I call them worker bees.
Yes.
Worker bees. All right. Thank you for doing that. And you have children?
I have 2 sons,
And their names?
Michael and Mark.
One lives in New Hampshire?
Yes,
And the other one?
Delaware.
Delaware. Delaware. All right. Most of the people who will be watching this initially know you as having the following position. You were the principal of Plymouth, was it Area High School or Plymouth Regional High School? Because I get confused.
Oh, it was Plymouth Area High School, and I think that changed in the early 1990s when
Okay.
the area agreement was dissolved and the Plymouth District was formed. And shortly thereafter, the Plymouth Elementary School was built on the grounds where the high school is, and that became Plymouth Elementary School.
Plymouth Elementary School. And you were the principal there for how long?
I was a principal at Plymouth Area High School for just under 11 years,
11 years. And you started when?
1974.
So 1974 to 1984?
Yeah, late 84. Yeah.
All right. How did you find out about this position to apply?
Well, I knew the superintendent of schools. I was living in Plymouth at the time. I was working at Plymouth State College, and I ran the placement office, and superintendents would come in to look at placement papers to hire teachers for their school districts.
Did you start that position or was it created
I
before
started
you?
that position in 1983.
1983. Wow. Wow. Does it exist today, that position?
Oh yes, it's expanded tremendously. It's called Career Planning and Counseling, and they have their own building on campus. The Bagley Building is where they're located.
Wow.
Oh, they were located there. I don't know where they are now.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned to me when you first took the position at Plymouth High School that you were living someplace else, perhaps?
Well, I knew we had the job, and we put our house on the market in Hillsborough, where we lived.
Hillsborough.
And for 3 months, I commuted from Hillsborough to Plymouth. And then we moved to Plymouth in August of 1973. We found a home there and moved the family to Plymouth.
And you had both kids at the time? Both of the boys?
I had both sons at the time, yes.
So they enrolled in Plymouth Elementary School?
The youngest one was 2.
Okay, we had to hold on.
He didn't enroll in much of anything. My oldest son started in the kindergarten at Plymouth Elementary School.
All right. So who is the principal for our audience prior to you?
Well, Dr. Richard Wilgorin was there for a year, and prior to him was George Zulius. Many of the audience certainly knew of George Zulius. George was principal there for better than 23 years, and he retired, I believe, in 1973.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yes, many in the audience will remember Mr. Zulius because he was there for decades. Interesting, interesting. How would you describe your term as principal during that time?
Challenging.
Do I dare ask, can you expand?
Excuse me?
Can you expand on challenging? Are you allowed to do that?
Well, you had almost 500 students and 60 staff members, custodians, food service workers, and we had a big team there, and my job was to supervise those people and make sure that the school ran smoothly, which it did, and get everybody on the same page to make Plymouth High School a great place to be.
And it has had a fine reputation. You have to thank you for that. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right. I'm trying to think of some of the teachers that were there at that time. because that might resonate with our audience today. Can you do that?
Millie Potter was there for years. She taught social studies.
Yeah.
Rita Hyde, who was the wife of President Harold Hyde, she was a teacher there.
English, yeah.
Mike Vaca was there for many years.
Yeah.
Chuck Lenahan, who many know is coach and athletic director. He started working there in the early 70s, I believe. So there were quite a few.
Yeah.
There were a lot there that were there when I started working.
Wow. Well, I'm thinking of what changes you might have brought during that time. 10 years is a long time to be a principal today, with all, all the challenging needs.
Well, you need to know that a good administrator administers from the bottom up, not from the top down. So in order to make things work, you have to have all the people on board to buy into what you want to do. So we had many faculty meetings and department meetings to talk about curriculum, what curriculum changes needed to be made by departments. There were a lot of mini courses that were offered at that time. That was a thing that was done, 1/4 credit courses, which I didn't like personally. I didn't think it was enough time to be with a class or for a 1/4 of a credit. Wow. So we eventually eliminated those, and we went to full credits in all of the departments in the school. And I think everybody bought into that. I think they wanted that change.
Mm-hmm. What other changes took place during those 10 years, 11 years?
Well, we obviously had a great athletic program in the school. It was very competitive. We had great coaches, great athletes who were determined, they were motivated, and they represented the school very well. We had a great reputation around the state for not only having a good athletic program, but good athletes who were respectful of the rules and exemplified good sportsmanship and those things. So I think that was very important. And that was done by the coaches. That was their responsibility, and they carried that on very well. I was always proud of them, and I was always proud to go to an event. And I knew that things were going to run smoothly. A lot of it was dependent upon Chuck Lenahan, who was an outstanding athletic director at that school for over 40 years. And he put in tremendous hours to be sure that everything was run smoothly. During athletic home contests, he was there. Probably stayed in school all day to be sure that the gym was ready and clean and set up and to be run. So I never had much to worry about. I could go as a fan. I didn't have to go as a principal.
Wow.
I was there in case they needed any assistance, but I never missed an event in the school.
Compliments to you and to Mr. Lenahan as well.
The other thing too, we started a dramatics program. They didn't have much in dramatics, but we were fortunate to hire good teachers and put on many plays and concerts in the school. The actors received numerous awards. There are banners hanging in the auditorium of contests that they participated in and were successful. There was always a major production in the winter and the spring. Was very well attended, and people look forward to going to those because they knew that everything was going to be done at a first-class level. So I was always proud of that group too. So not only the athletic program was good, but also other co-curricular programs, music program, and a lot of activities were involved by teachers. So it was well-rounded. It was an opportunity for youngsters to participate in a lot of activities if they so desired. We always encourage kids to get involved in school in some form or fashion as ancillary to their academic life. To me, that was very important. That gives them a connection with the school, with maybe other friends in school that they may not have known when they came for the first time. As you know, we had kids from 7 towns that came to that school. So we had youngsters that came from small elementary schools, all of a sudden came to what they considered the big high school. And it was really my responsibility to see how we could integrate those students into
So important.
school life for them. And they did that. We had boys and girls from all the towns that were on the National Honor Society played sports, were in the plays, in the concerts. So therefore, they felt the school belonged to them, that they were part of that.
That's been a comment through a lot of my interviews. People that were outside of Plymouth, the students that were outside of Plymouth, they either had to find their own transportation or they had to be bused in. And I'd ask a question about extracurricular and they could say, this is a long time ago now, they would say, I couldn't participate, I couldn't participate. So
That's very true. That was a problem. I mean, we started school about 20 minutes of 8, if I can go back to 1974, and a lot of youngsters had to be out waiting for the bus at 6:30 in the morning. And so that made it a long day for those students. And if they stayed for an activity, many of them didn't have a way to get home. So they maybe have to go out and stand on the highway and bum a ride home, or maybe someone could bring them, or the parents would come and pick them up after games and practices. So it was a real challenge for those, but we did have really good participation from those outlying towns, and that meant it's a big sacrifice for not only the athletes, but for the parents to see that they were available to help their youngsters get into those activities.
so crucial, socially, and also the opportunities that you provided for them.
Absolutely.
I'm a female. You're talking about early 1970s. What was done then for women, especially, I'm zooming in now, in sport?
Well, when I got to Plymouth, they had, for girls, they had girls basketball, a start of girls softball, track and field, and that was about it. And the boys had football, basketball, baseball, skiing. Also, there was females that skated. Plymouth also had an outstanding ski program. They were state champions year after year, and Nordic and Alpine. I don't know where they all came from, but boy, they could ski. We had some really outstanding skiers, and many went on to college to ski.
Oh, that's great.
And had sons and daughters that also became skiers. So that was very, very important.
Should we give accolades to the coaches? Can you remember
Well,
the coaches of that
yes.
sport?
One in particular was Norm LeBlanc. Norm was an industrial arts teacher at the school. Then he ran the buildings and constructions program, and eventually ended his career as being a guidance counselor. So he had a great affection for kids, and he, with a lot of assistance, really did so much for skiing.
That's great.
And now I think he has a son that coaches skiing at the high school. So there's a family connection there too.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. Especially because we're living in Plymouth, New Hampshire, with
Right,
mountains all around us.
Well, there was a little mountain on the Plymouth campus called Zeke's Peak. It was going up the walkway, and there was a rope tow, and it was a short hill, and Parks and Recreation ran it. And I can't tell you what year it started, but both my boys learned how to ski there. It was open on the weekends, and they had supervision by Parks and Recreation. And it was really fun. It was open every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from, I don't know, from sun up to sundown.
You just gave me an idea. Thank you very much. They're not even listening to us right now, but we should get someone from Park and Recreation that has history. Because I'm a kid, and I remember going to day camp, Park and Rec, as a little child, and somebody's still running it today, and how it's expanded over time, and how it served the community. Thank you. I had to pay you $1 for that. That's good.
$1? Jeez, hardly worth my effort telling you.
Okay, sir. I want to go backwards. You're the principal. Did you have a principal with those numbers of students and faculty, et cetera? A vice principal? A vice principal? Did you ever have one of those?
I had a vice principal, yeah.
Okay. Can you remember his name?
Yeah, his name was Sherb Ramsey.
Oh, Mr. Ramsey.
And he was a long-time teacher in the school. And
Wow.
I hired him as the assistant principal when I arrived in 1974. And he did that for about 5 or 6 years and decided he wanted to go back to the classroom.
Chemistry. That's what I remember
Chemistry
having
and
in
biology, I think those are his two fortes of teaching, yeah.
Oh, that's neat. I can see why it would be a challenging experience then as it is today. The amount of time I say work, but I say time that you need to invest to
Yeah.
connect with the kids, but it's probably also, I hope you agree, rewarding.
It was. And I only have to thank my wife for taking home responsibilities that allowed me to spend a number of hours.
There you go.
I never missed any activities in that school. They had a dance or a ball game or an event. I was there. I felt that was my responsibility to be there, not only to supervise, but to support. You know, and sometimes I couldn't go and they would say, Mr. D, we didn't see you last night at the game. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I had another event to go to. So, but my wife was very supportive of that. She never complained about me being out late. Plus, I had a lot of school board meetings and building committee meetings and those things that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Plus, I was active in a lot of state affairs too, so I put a lot on my plate that maybe I didn't have to do, but
That's you.
I did.
That's you.
I did that.
Let's go back just a little bit, if I can, talk about your education. It's mostly in Concord. Elementary was in Concord?
I went to elementary and high school in Concord, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And you went to St. Peter's, my notes will share.
St. Peter's Elementary School, yeah.
All right. And is
did.
that, where's that located?
Well,
Do
it
you-
was located up the north end of Concord, on the corner of Bradley and Walker Street, but that's no longer in existence.
Okay.
There is a regional high school down on the south end of Concord, down on South State Street and Thorndike Street. And I think that became, I think that's where the elementary and middle school
Are
is,
now.
in that building, yeah.
And for our audience, what subject matter did you enjoy the most? Here I am asking
I
this
had
of a
lunch and
former
recess.
principal.
Lunch and recess and sports, I think were, sports ranked high, but then lunch and recess.
Get serious.
Well, I am serious. That is serious. I was a fair to middling student, and only for the grace of my father keeping close tabs on me that I had to get enough grades to play sports. That's why I got my grades up, because if I didn't get adequate grades, he would ground me from athletics. So you're not playing sports until you get your grades up. So that was a common denominator that went through my 4 years. So
Is that still an issue today? For me to participate in sport in high school, I have to have a certain grade point average.
no,
No, it's not.
no,
Okay.
that's a local decision.
All right.
In order to play, you have to pass four units of work in a marking period. That makes your eligibility. But that's a state eligibility that the school follows. Some have higher standards than that, and I don't know what Plymouth is now.
Could have
I
changed.
haven't been in the high school since 1986, so I can't tell you that. But that was something that students and the coaches there always put a lot of pressure on the kids to get good grades, so they didn't want to lose them from the sports teams.
Absolutely.
So that was a help too. So
Well, I'm coming back at you. Favorite subjects, and we can pass that for now.
well, I can.
Maybe the least favorite subjects as well.
Well, I took Spanish, Latin, and French,
3 languages.
and I did poorly in all 3. But I took English and history, and I did fairly well in those courses. So I like the languages, those languages.
All right, thank you for that. Let's see. How about if there was a special teacher in your life that you're willing to share?
Well, I had a nun up at St. Peter's in the elementary school named Sister Priscilla, and I had her for 3 years. She followed me along. And I had some real good teachers at the high school. There was the principal was Sister Winifred. She had a brother that played minor league baseball in the Red Sox organization. So she had the Red Sox games on every afternoon, listening to the Red Sox. So if you received attention, you had to go to her room. So you would sit there and listen to a ball game when you had attention.
Oh, I feel sad for you.
Yeah, but she was terrific. She was beyond her years and being really uplifting, and she was a great principal.
She was the best.
Yeah, she taught some courses. She taught the business courses there,
Okay.
and she was the principal.
Go Red Sox. Go Red Sox. All right then. Higher education, you decided to go on to school after high school.
Yep.
Where did you go?
Well, I want to major in hotel administration.
Okay.
I can't tell you why I want to major in that. And the closest school was a college called Nassau College in Springvale, Maine. Had about 500 students in there, and they had a management program. for hotel management. So I enrolled in the program, and then I found out that I had to take chemistry, and a lot of, because you had to learn foods and nutrition. So I did that for 2 years, and I said, I think I'll try something else. So I changed my major to history and English, and I got a minor in physical education. And after college, I decided to teach and coach.
Wow.
So the career took a different, stayed at Nassau the whole time, but changed majors like many students do that. They go in and they're undecided. I mean, why would you at 17 years old pick your life's work?
Thank you. I say that
you
so
couldn't
often.
pick your lunch.
Yeah.
Never mind your life's work. So.
It is still so difficult. I
That's
would
right.
say 18 years old, they have to make a decision. 17, when they're planning on it,
That's right.
what they're going to do
Right.
for the rest of their life. I
agree.
don't know how to do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, you went down to Keene State.
Well, that was later.
Did I forget something?
Well, I started on a master's program over at the University of New Hampshire in guidance and counseling.
Right.
My job was in Hillsborough. We lived in Hillsborough for 11 years. And I was a teacher and a coach, guidance counselor, started the guidance program, and was principal there for 6 years. At that time, I was the youngest principal in the state. I was 28 years old and became principal. I had a hard time finding the keys to the file cabinets. And that was my job. And I'll tell you, it's on-the-job training. I had no assistant principal, no department heads, no athletic director. One time the custodians went on strike, and I helped sweep the building and put the flag out and take the flag in.
I applaud
But I
you.
was 28 years old. You had a lot of energy. I think about that and say, I don't know how I did that, but I did that. And we had no children when we arrived there. And my 2 sons were born in Hillsborough before we left, and I went to Plymouth State College to work.
But you could see a job to be done, and you do it,
Well,
regardless of what your position was.
you had no choice.
Well, okay. We needed a clean wall. All right then. So can we jump to Keene State then?
Well,
If I missed something
when
else.
I was in Hillsborough, I was working on my guidance program, my degree. I was going every summer from Hillsborough to UNH to take summer classes. I didn't take winter classes because I was coaching 3 varsity sports at Hillsborough. I was coaching cross country, basketball, and baseball, so there was not much time to go in the winter or the spring to school, so I went in the summers. And the reason I went there is that the superintendent came to me and said that the state of New Hampshire is going to have guidance counselors in all the high schools in the state.
Yeah.
And they're going around trying to get people to be certified. So I started on a certification program at UNH to be a certified guidance counselor. So the first year I was a guidance counselor 2 periods a day, doing guidance work. The next year I was 3 periods a day. And my last year I was going into full-time. It's going to be full-time, and I dropped 2 sports. I kept basketball, but I dropped cross country and baseball. And the superintendent came to me one day in March, and he said, would you be interested in being the principal here? And I said, well, I'm working on my master's degree in guidance and counseling, and I'm not certified. He said, don't worry about that. We'll take care of your certification. So I told him, went home and spoke to Kay about it and said, what do you think? And she said, well, you think you're going to like giving up the guidance and counseling work and being a coach to do that? I said, who knows? It pays more money. It pays about $5,000 more. And that was a lot of money back in 1968, 69. So I did, and then Keene had a master's program in school administration. So I was living in Hillsborough, so the next 4 summers, I started going to Keene to get enough credits to become a principal, and I got my master's degree at the same time from Keene.
Wow.
That's how that worked out.
And then we
And at the
continued.
same time, I got a job teaching 1 course a semester at Nathaniel Hawthorne College. It was a small college in Antrim, New Hampshire, and I taught a course. It was called the American School, and I taught that 1 course each semester while I was principal and taking graduate courses.
Extra pay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No volunteer.
Oh, but that wasn't too far away.
About 5 miles up the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. But as you share all your educational experiences with me, it was little time for family.
Well,
You were lucky to see
it's
them.
not quantity time, it's quality time. A lot of people go home and lay on the couch and drink beer and watch TV and spend no time with their kids. Our whole life was centered around our boys.
That's perfect.
Got them involved in a lot of activities, involved in park recreation, playing sports. So I would say that I may be going to a meeting, but all of a sudden I'd be sitting reading the paper and when someone would bring a baseball glove and say, hey, Dad, let's go out and play catch.
Got it.
And I said, oh, all right. So I did that. So I said our life and our vacations together. We did a lot of vacations together in the summer. So there was, but you know, Kay was the homemaker, and she was the one that kept them under wraps and made sure that they did their homework and those kind of things. So
That's nice. That's nice. It's not how much time you spend together, it's the quality of time.
right.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right. And then what did we do? You go back to UNH, right? And get a
Yeah.
certificate for advanced graduate studies.
well, yes, I was in Plymouth, and a lot of my friends were working on their doctorate. So I enrolled at the Vanderbilt University into a doctoral program, and they met 1 weekend a month.
Okay, good.
I just looked into it, went and sat in on one class, hadn't paid anything. And then they're talking about having going to 2 weeks in the summer down to Vanderbilt for like your
Wow.
in service
Like residency.
residency. And you had to do that twice.
Sure.
And then you had to write a dissertation. And that ended that program. I said, I have no time to do that. So I enrolled in a certificate of advanced graduate. It was called the CAGS at UNH, and
Right.
commuted from Plymouth to UNH and had to take 40 credits and got a certificate of advanced graduate study. And that was the end of the formal education.
I think you and all your positions were formal education. You learned so much for those as well.
I think you're right.
All right. You made a list for me one time, all the jobs, positions that you held that were aligned with administration. Can we
Well,
go back way far away?
well, I was active with the Guidance and Counsel Association when I was the guidance counselor there, the state association. When I was principal, I was a member of the New Hampshire Association of School Principals, and I went to all their meetings. I worked with the Department of Education. I got appointed to the Professional Standards Board that was the right policy for schools. And I worked on a program that would interview prospective candidates to become principals. About certifying. So that was probably, other than that, and then after I left Hillsborough, I left Plymouth, I became executive director of the NHIA, which was the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association. Our office was in Concord, and I worked there for 22 years. And I was very involved with the National Federation of High Schools, and that was the governing board of high school athletics and activities, not only but activities in the country. And I became with them, and I got elected to the board, and I became president of the association in 1999. And then in 2002, I was elected into the Hall of Fame. So that was my involvement with the NHI. NHI took a lot of time because we were regulating all high school sports in the state. We certified the officials, worked closely with the coaches, give coaches education. We said coaches education mandatory, coaches education. Had to go to rules interpretation meeting so they would know the rules of the game. And that was really very rewarding. And in addition to that, in my 22 years there, girls' sports really exploded. When I got there, there were very few girls' sports, a lot like Hillsborough and a lot like high schools. So we started girls' soccer. Girls had to play on the boys' team if they wanted to play soccer. So we started girls' soccer. We started girls' competitive cheer because we were seeing there was a lot of accidents. at athletic contests with girls who were doing mounts and stunts and getting injured. So we did a lot of training for that, and we offered girls ice hockey.
Wow.
We had girls gymnastics. I think there were others, but we really had the girls program mirror the boys. So in the school, you had to have the same number of female opportunities for sports as you had boys.
Is that the case today?
Oh, yes.
Still is.
It is. I believe it is. So, yeah.
I can't imagine.
Well, you've got parents now. See, the difference was when I was coaching, the parents didn't play sports. The fathers were in World War II. There was no sports for girls. So they didn't know too much about sports. They would go to the games. Now you have fathers and mothers who probably played 4 years of high school sports, probably played in college. And guess what? They're going to put a lot of pressure on the school to be sure that their daughter is getting the same opportunities as the boys are. So I think that's really helped. There are some hindrances with that too. There's a lot more involvement with parents in the lives of students in helping coaches coach and hollering at the referees and those things. But it didn't happen when I played and when I coached. The parents went as spectators and enjoyed the game. So I wouldn't give that up, what I had, to what the coaches have today.
A political question, and here we're in 2023, and we have men playing on women's teams.
Yeah.
We don't have to say much.
I don't know much about that. That's way above my pay grade.
I just think
we'll let the State Department of Education and the principals and superintendents who are getting paid to do that to work that out.
So what will the future hold?
Not me.
Thank you very much, sir, on that one. All right. Again, I'd like to go backwards at Plymouth High School because of the audience that we have today. What kind of changes did you have during your tenure?
Well,
You said the number of sports.
I think we had the changes in the culture of the school. I think the main goal was to make this their home away from home.
Oh, beautiful.
And every time there was any vandalism or something like that, it was taken care of. We'd have a lot of discussion about that, saying, would you do that in your own home? You've got to respect this place. And if you're that angry to do that, we need to talk to you about that. So we spent a lot of time with the custodians, making sure that the school was spotless. And the custodians did a real good job at that. You could walk in that school at any time, and the floors were shiny, the lockers weren't written on. You walk around the school.
Pride and respect.
I spent a lot of time walking around. I spent a little time in my office. My office was from 3:30 to 5. I spent all day there around the school, visiting classes and talking to kids and working with the custodians and child feeding services and all those things. I thought that was very, very important.
I'm not even sure who's responsible for today, but during your era, if I did some things that were not appropriate, who would I go to? Principal, vice principal?
Well, it depends on the issue. If it was a disciplinary issue, then you would go to the assistant principal. If it came to a situation that was going to be a suspension from school, they had to come to me. I was the hearing officer for suspensions. The assistant principal had no authority to suspend students. So if that happened, I'd be the court of last resort, so to speak. And we would hope that the teachers are getting paid to work with discipline. That's part of their job. Rather than sending students to the office because they acted up, then we'd say, well, then you keep them after school and you talk with them. And maybe you should call their parents. That was difficult to do because many teachers say, well, I'm only here to teach. I'm not here to do discipline. That's what we hire the principal and the assistant principal to do. But anyway, it was worth an effort, and I don't know what's happening today, but that was, I think the culture has changed too with teachers. I think they're much more involved.
I hope so. I hope so. It's critical. Yeah. You retired. You finally retired.
Retired in 2006.
And what did you decide to do then?
Well,
could you stay home?
Well, I did. My wife, Kay, had retired 4 years before me.
Okay.
And pretty much had the home to herself. So she didn't need this big lunk of a guy coming home and hanging around the house, laying on the couch reading the paper, you know.
That's not what men do.
Well,
Come on.
so I stayed active. I did a lot of walking and tried to do some exercise. I started a program at Plymouth State and a master's degree in athletic administration. And I taught in that program for 8 years in the summer.
Wow.
So I did that. I was on the board of judges for the Union Leader Athlete of the Month for over 20 years. And I continued with that. I was on 2 or 3 scholarship boards. You know, and I got some nice recognition for that. I got a prestigious award from Plymouth State called the Granite State Award, which recognizes individuals who make contributions to youth in New Hampshire. And all of a sudden I got a call from Sarah Jane Steen, the president, said, what are you doing on May 17th? So she said, well, we'd like you to come to Plymouth to the graduation and receive an award. So, so I gathered up the family, we all went, and they provided lunch. And so I think there were some rewards, not necessarily financial rewards, but rewards that had recognition for the work we were doing. And then in 2019, the Union Leader newspaper, New Hampshire Union Leader, established a program called the James W. Desmarais Distinguished Service Award.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so that started in 2017 and 2019. I can't remember. So they give that out to an individual. One of the persons that received it was a student of mine who I had at the Hogan family, and Paul Hogan received that award one year. So I was very pleased to have one of ours.
One of ours.
Who received that.
That's special.
Yeah,
That's real
yeah.
special. Yeah, it is. I have some questions I'd like to ask about the town itself, the changes that have taken place during your tenure there.
Sure.
Easy one, your reflections on living in the town of Plymouth. It's general.
Well, it was really interesting. I had only been to Plymouth once before I applied for a job there. I had a friend who taught with me in Hillsborough, and he got a job teaching in Lebanon, and they bought a home in Plymouth. And he invited me up to see the dedication of the new high school in Plymouth.
Yeah.
So I went up there and we had lunch, and had never been there and didn't know much about Plymouth. You know, my impression being away was, well, that must be a one-horse town. You know, stuck in the middle up there in the woods.
Look at this.
Well, a lot of people had that impression.
Okay.
Just because you've lived there your whole life, I'd expect you to have a different presentation.
My hand is up.
So anyway, you know, that wasn't said. That was sort of internalized. That you didn't know anything about them. They didn't participate in any activities down in the southern part of the state.
Yeah.
Their activities were in the north country and the central part of the state. So when I applied for the job, my wife said, well, how far up are we from shopping? And I said, well, they're loaded with malls up there. They're packed with them. Hundreds of malls up there. So she came up with me when I took my interview. I had an interview. I was offered an interview at Plymouth State for the Director of Career Counseling and Placement, that first job. So I went up and took an interview with Dr. Foley and Dr. Smith, and she came with me, and I said, well, you need to drive around the town. And so she came back and she said, you know, it's a little farther north than I like, and by the way, we're not going any farther north. So don't be thinking of any jobs on the Canadian border, because we're not going. So
Thank you, Kay.
so we went, and there were only 4 houses for sale in Plymouth when we moved there.
Wow.
4 houses.
Wow.
So we bought a house on Broadway Street, and we lived there 45 years. In that house, it was a great location, right near the hospital. A 5-minute walk to the hospital, a 5-minute walk to the school, 7 minutes to downtown. A neighborhood full of kids.
So the kids, your children could walk to school, or were they?
Walk to school. They had a crossing guard right on Highland Street.
That's right. That's
that
right.
You could walk to school.
Yeah.
So there was an older home, and we had just built a new home in Hillsborough, and I think we were in it a year and a half. And so we bought a home that was 35 years old and needed a lot of work. I should have known better. I looked on the mantle of this house, and there was a ton of bowling trophies and golf trophies. That should have told me there was a whole lot of work being done to upkeep the house, isn't there? So we got there, and over the years, we did a lot of renovations to the home. And then we sold it in 2017 and moved into a condo. So that was a yard full of kids. There was probably 15 to 20 kids, my kids' age, in that neighborhood.
Beautiful.
Hung out there. It was really a safe place to be. And I grew up in a neighborhood. And I wanted my kids to grow up in a neighborhood. There's something about that. And
You're the principal of the high school, and if I said to you, the weather of the area, ice jams, flooding, whatever we have, bounty of snow, how were you affected? How was your job affected by the weather?
well, my first year there, the superintendent of schools at the time got into an argument with the school board about calling school off. So they said, Jim, we're going to give you that job. You're going to take that job over.
Wow.
So, and that's in the days when the television stations didn't come on till 7 o'clock in the morning, and the radio stations in Plymouth, you could get one WPNH that didn't come on till 7 o'clock. Now, I got to get up and make a decision by 5:30 whether they're going to call off school. So I would get out of bed and look outside, the pitch black, and I would call the road agent. They call, I think, the superintendent of our highways. His name was Fred Hussey. He had done that job for years. And Charlie Moss was the bus driver. And I'd call them both and say, what are the roads like? What do you think? And of course, their answer was, Jim, that's your call. You know, that's, and we're going to have a liability issue. We're going to lay it on you. So then we had another principal that used the same bus company up in Campton. And I would call him at 5:30 and we'd chat back and forth and make a decision whether we're going to call school off. And we had what they call a phone tree. I'd call one person, that person would call a person, and call a person, and we'd call school off. Most of the times it was the right call. But I can tell you a couple of times that I called school off, and by 9:30, the sun was out, it was nice and bright, we only got about 4 inches of snow, and the kids are all home. And the parents said to me, who the heck called that school off? Who was that idiot that did that?
Mr. Desmarais.
So I said, well, listen, anytime you want that job, let me know. I'll sign you up. So that unfortunately, was my job too.
Well, we're nearing the end of our interview, and if I asked you maybe I should just say, if you were going to share something with future generations, we had a group of 10 or 20 people here, what advice might you share with them that you have learned, taken from all your academic positions?
Well, I think it's really important to get involved. Not only did I work at the high school, I was involved in the community. For 3 years, I ran the Hospital Country Fair, run by Spear Memorial Hospital. It was held first on the town hall grounds, then it moved across to the parking lot of Plymouth State, and then it went inside the building. So it grew, and all the money that was raised was given back to the hospital to buy equipment.
Beautiful.
So we had face painting and food and jewelry selling. So I don't know how I got that job, but somebody called and said, would you be that? So I did that. I was a supervisor of the checklist for 15 years. Right. I did that. I had a couple of positions from the selectman's office. I was in the Plymouth Rotary Club for 10 to 12 years. I was president of the Rotary Club in 1986.
So it sounds like all these organizations you've been involved with for years, you're giving back to your community. And I think that's important for people to hear. Yeah.
Well, I did that. It was also a chance to learn something too, because I got involved in a lot of state programs too. I had 3 governors that appointed me to committees and commissions. So I think all those things helped my personal and professional growth. I think and it also connected me with people in the community.
Huge.
That was the important thing.
Huge.
When I was supervisor of the checklist, they all came in to vote, and they saw me there, because they'd all say, well, how come you're not in school today?
You took a day off.
Who's running the school? I said, the kids run the school. You don't need me here. Right. They're making the decision. But that was a way to meet people and get involved. The Rotary Club had a lot of the business leaders in the community, and we're always knocking their door to get fundraising for money. So I thought that was really important for me to do, and I think it was important for school. My wife Kay did that too. She worked at Plymouth Hospital for 28 years in the medical records. She helped start the Plymouth Choral Society, and she was in that. And in her obituary, the boys wrote that she loved Plymouth Town. And it was because she was connected with the university.
There we go.
And the high school and the college, those people. And she was on the faculty wives club at the college. They had a group that met the faculty wives, and they met all the time. So I think she was really connected to the community in her way. I mean, she didn't volunteer as much stuff as I did. She couldn't, but she knew a lot of people who worked at the hospital for 28 years. You can imagine the amount of friends that she met, and nursing staff and support staff and all that. And so
I'm looking at our clock. Our time says it's almost done, so I want to thank you for inviting us home. You're home now. I think people will enjoy the story that we have to tell. So I want to thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And to our audience, again, another episode of the Memories of Plymouth. We're hoping that what we are doing by video that you can see on the Pemmy Baker television program, that perhaps you will do the same type of thing within your home. I keep saying it over and over again. Years from now, another generation will hear some of your stories. They'll hear your voice, which I think is exceedingly important. So until next time, thank you for joining us on the Memories of Plymouth.